Hello, thank you for watching. What I'm going to attempt to do in this video is tell you what I used to believe as an atheist and what I now believe as a new convert to Christianity, and how actually the two can fit together really quite well. You don't have to make too many alterations to your belief as an atheist, and you can think very logically. You don't have to throw your logic out and come to find Jesus. I've had comments in my previous video that I could never have been an atheist. How could I possibly have been an atheist and now be a Christian? Hopefully this video will show you how my previous beliefs as a Christian, I haven't had to alter too much to come to now be a Christian, and I haven't had to throw out logic. In fact, I used logic to come to be a Christian. So I've written on the board here, on this column, I'm going what I believed as an atheist, and in this column I'm going to write down what I believe as a Christian, and how I haven't had to throw huge amounts of this column out. I've had to alter things slightly, but hopefully you'll see that the alterations I've made actually are very logical, and what I've inherited is a whole new set of things that actually makes a lot of sense. So when I was an atheist, and I was definitely an atheist, if I give you my background, both my parents were brought up as strict Catholics, and in doing so they rejected the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has a lot of problems. I think they're trying to deal with it, but it does historically have a lot of problems. My mother went to a convent. My father was brought up with the Christian brothers in Ireland, and if you don't know, look up the Christian brothers and you'll see they had a lot of problems with child abuse and various things. So both of them rejected the church, rejected Christianity, and myself and my brother were brought up as atheists, very rigidly atheist. However, my parents were, they allowed us to make our own decisions in life. Okay, so I went to a Church of England school, and I was the kid. It was a boarding school, and on a Sunday we would go to church. I was the kid that didn't go forward. So when they went forward for their blessings and their bread and wine, I was the kid that stayed behind, because I thought it was all just total rubbish. That was my upbringing, that was my the beliefs I was brought up with. I used to believe that the only thing that exists was the material world. So the material world was all that there was. So material world is all there is. So if you couldn't touch it, taste it, feel it, smell it, or have some kind of device that could detect it, then as far as I was concerned, it didn't exist. Okay? Material world was all that there was. Now, what that does, it means you end up worshipping the material world. Now, a lot of atheists will hear me say that, and they'll say, don't be ridiculous, I don't worship the material world. Well, that's what I didn't realize I was doing that until I've made the transition to Christianity. But human beings are wired to worship something. Whether you like it or not, that's how it is. We all, now, I didn't go out, I didn't sort of pray and sort of bow down to material things, and I didn't worship in that sense. But what I was worshipping was the fact that all that really existed to me were things that I could touch and feel. And yet, at the same time, as an atheist, if you're an atheist watching this right now, you know that there are other things in the world. So I have 2 children. I love my children, I love my wife. I can't touch that love. I can't measure that love. I can't get some kind of a detector out that would show you that love. But that love is definitely there. And you yourself as atheists, if you atheists watching this, will have love. A material world view cannot explain love and emotions. It cannot explain it. They will attempt to explain it by saying love is a release of certain chemicals within the mind. The brain releases certain hormones, and that gives you a feeling of love. But that's a very limited way of trying to explain that. You know, we all have this experience, and you can't really explain it in a material sense. So I'm going to put that in the Christian column. Love and emotions. It's a non-material thing, love and emotions. We all experience it. It is there, but an atheistic worldview really can't adequately explain love and emotions. And I know people will comment and they will say, well, it's the release of hormones, and these hormones give you these sensations. I would argue, yes, it is a release of hormones, and you can measure that release of hormones, but it doesn't really adequately explain why love exists and why we get dreams and things like this. So the other thing I want to talk about is creation and evolution. So evolution, it tends to be put under the atheistic worldview. I think it straddles, but that goes there. And then creation. Creation coming under the Christian worldview. Now, I was fortunate enough to recently go to a talk by a Christian scientist who was he's retired now, but pioneer in DNA analysis, and I had a conversation with him as a recent convert to Christianity. It made the whole question of evolution, which I'd never questioned before, it threw that up as a question for me. So my question to him was, is evolution real? So evolution is certainly a real thing. So we can trace DNA, we can trace how DNA adapts to its environment, and you can get positive adaptations with variations within DNA. So man, for me, it's not a problem to me that man has evolved from apes. I have no issue with that. However, what science has failed to do is show how life occurred, how life first began. So we know what DNA is made up of, we know all the chemicals within it, we can look at it and look at the DNA molecule and in great detail. Yet no scientist has ever been able to produce life. So what I mean by that, you can put all the building blocks of life into a petri dish, you can run electricity through it, and you can do all sorts of things to it. But no scientist has ever been able to produce life out of the building blocks of life. Even though we can now put them all together, have them all there, we can heat it up, we can put electricity through it, we can do all sorts of things, but no one yet has been able to produce life. So this is where the Christian worldview is where creation and evolution, to me, really aren't a contradiction. God simply uses the DNA molecule to create humanity, create animals, and molds that molecule to create the world that we have around us. An atheistic worldview is that it's just random changes, that just by pure random chance this molecule varies and it randomly brings up these fantastic world that we see around us. What I would suggest, if you look at the natural world and you look at, for example, look at parrots and the glorious colours within a parrot, and you have to ask yourself, is it really necessary for a parrot to have such glorious colours? We recently went to Longleat, and there's a certain cow that has 2 metre long horns, huge, massive horns. I mean, they must weigh a ton. And could just random changes produce the glorious natural world that we see around us? The Blue Planet is on the BBC right now. If you watch that programme, you see the plants and the animals, the water animals that are there. From a Christian viewpoint, it makes sense. God is creating a glorious world with all the variety within it, and the Bible talks about that. Look at the natural world to see God's glory. From an atheistic worldview, I just think it's very hard to explain the sheer diversity of the biological world, saying that it was just pure chance, it was natural chance. So, as an atheist, it's chance that we have the abundance of life that we have. As a Christian, it's been guided by God, God's creation. And I would argue it takes a lot more faith to believe that it's pure chance, this glorious world that we have, than it does to think that it's God's creation. The mobile phone that's filming me right now is but a fraction of the complexity of me and my eyeball or my kidneys. It doesn't even hold a candle to the complexity of me, and yet nobody would ever possibly think that my iPhone would just by chance appear out of nothing. And yet as an atheist, that's exactly what I thought of the natural world, is that just by pure chance it appeared out of nothing. I'm a physiotherapist, and my hand is so much more complex than anything that the human being has been able to create as yet. Someday maybe we will be able to create a hand that's very complicated and can work and grip in the way that my hand can. But that merely proves creation to me, in that somebody conscious had to create that hand, that artificial hand, and we're nowhere near as complex at the moment as my hand is here. And yet, as an atheist, I had to believe that it's just pure chance. This hand is just pure random chance that I created this hand. So, like I say, as an atheist, you are using faith. You are having faith in the pure chance of evolution. As a Christian, I think that's a more logical answer. That it's been created. That hand has been created. Someone has designed that hand, used the DNA molecule in order to design and create that hand. So, I hope that's been useful. If you've got any comments, please put them below. I'd love to hear them. The step that I have taken is to go from really just believing in the superficial material world and recognizing the other aspect of my life, the soul, if you like, of my life. The fact that I can dream, that I can love, that I can create things out of nothing, which is mankind's gift, is that mankind can create things. We are in God's image. We can create out of nothing and look around the world around us. We can create this iPhone is a mankind creation, and that's what sets us apart from the animals. Animals don't really create. They can use simple tools and things like that, but they can never. My dog will never create anything. As much as I love my dog, he will never be able to create anything. Mankind is different, is that we are created in God's image. We are able to create. Anyway, I hope you found that useful, and goodbye for now.